Rock and roll may live forever, but we only retire once. Kevin Lamour of Our Financial Plans and Quadris Investment Services offers a large range of financial solutions from some of the biggest leaders in the investment and insurance landscape of Canada. See how a solid financial plan built with friendly and professional advice can help. Find out more at ourfinancialplans.ca or give them a call at 705-949-1316. Hey folks, and good day, and welcome to the Lonesome Cowboy Podcast. You see, you're doing what I should have in my hand. And all I'm doing is drinking water. But anyways, and welcome to the Lonesome Cowboy Podcast, and my guest today is a musician, theater guy from Northern Ontario in the Cobalt, South Porcupine area. Is that where it was? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So South Porcupine, just outside of Timmins.
Yeah, and that's Will Gillespie. And hi, Will, and welcome to the program.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Thank you. I'm glad you made it. So, tell me about your latest album, Mine, True Stories of the Legends of the Porcupine Gold Rush.
Oh, this old thing.
That old thing. Yeah, look at that beautiful piece of vinyl. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Made to
Nice.
look. It's made to look like a book. So it's sort of like a history book on tape.
Sure.
It's 12 songs, each telling a different story about different local heroes behind the legends of the Porcupine Gold Rush of 1909.
Gotcha.
It's like another Klondike that happened right here in Ontario, up north in the Porcupine Camp, where I'm from.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
Yeah, and so this is the record that we're going to be touring next fall together.
You got it. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too.
With the two Northern Troubadours thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you have any family that was involved in mining and exploration in that area, Will?
Oh, yes. Actually, my grandfather, who I'm named after, also William Gillespie,
Mhm.
he came to Canada to work in the mines. And he was like actually in the show, I sometimes do the Mine True Stories and Legends of the Porcupine Gold Rush as like a sort of a campfire cabaret. And one of the things I wear is a hard hat that he actually wore underground in the mines. So it's like got the Canadian shield scratched on the top of it. Yeah, and he worked in the Dome mine for about 30 years, as well as the Hollinger up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gold
My brother, that was his first job when he graduated from the geology program here in the Sioux, and that was in Hollinger mines.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Great stuff. You're a theater person also, eh?
Well, sort of by trade and sort of by accident, actually.
Okay. How by trade? Tell me by trade. That's always, I like to explore that when I hear it.
Okay, well, what happened is, so I dropped out of theater school to become a folk singer, and then through playing folk gigs around town, and sometimes rock and roll frontman, different singer songwriting.
Sure.
I wound up in this place in Hamilton called Art Word Art Bar, and that was run by a guy named Ron Weiss. And one day he took me into his kitchen and offered me a gig in an acting gig in a play, which was called McBush the Musical, and it was sort of like the Scottish play by Shakespeare, meets the George W. Bush presidential era.
Oh,
and,
great.
So I was Saddam Hussein, or the ghost of, and I was also Donald Rumsfeld. And here, one second, I'll show you that too.
You playing just the greatest bad guys in the world, eh? Oh, great. Look at this.
That's me with the glasses there. Anyway.
Well done. Hey, look at that. That's beautiful.
It was like one of those moments where I was like baptized. He took me into the kitchen and I came out an actor.
Ah, very good. Now, did you want to act when you were going to theater school, Will, or were you more of a writer-director kind of person?
Well, it was kind of like the singer-songwriting thing was always my main goal and main passion. But basically anything where I'm able to write and perform,
Sure.
It's like words on paper, like the whole process from coming up with the initial idea, working and for the last 10 years, give or take 7 years for sure in Hamilton, working in the theater was great for me because it gave me sort of like one project to focus on for the year, and then always come up with a new project every single year kind of thing. So with the musicals, I kind of write, it was like making an album every year, except it also included like wrangling cats, as they call it, getting all the actors together and doing months of rehearsal. So, I probably like the rehearsal almost as much as the performance, really.
Yeah. And that's great that you're
Right.
doing original productions too. And because most you hear theater companies and they get the licensed shows and stuff like that, but you're doing original stuff, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, it's been great for the last 7 years or so, and
Hmm.
Hamilton Fringe has been very good to us. But well, the neat thing with that Mine project, that record I showed you, and that we're going to be doing some shows in Northern Ontario with. What's great about that is that's sort of been like a bridge to bring me back to sort of my roots in more ways than one, like
Hmm.
being a folk singer and doing songs about my hometown and sort of an homage to my grandfather who worked in the mines and my father who was a librarian. So, and even my grandmother Annie McEwen Gillespie, she was a pianist, like a sort of stride ragtime kind of pianist.
Wow.
So it's like, yeah, paying homage to all those people at once, as well as the underdogs behind the stories of the Porcupine Gold Rush,
Sure.
and sort of, yeah, a bridge back to sort of doing more concerts instead of plays. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
because writing all of that theater music, it's been good, to keep me busy and to have like a project to build towards every year. Uh, but the one downside is a lot of that music doesn't really work in like, let's say, a regular set, like, necessarily. So it works in the concept, in the context of the play. But so it's going to be good to get back into songs that I could play like anywhere.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Now you've got I'm just trying to I forget my questions. That's why I write them down now. Isn't that the truth? Um, you write musicals. What's that like compared to writing um a regular song? Is there different? Is it more difficult? To me, it sounds like it's more difficult because you can't just say, "Hey, I'm going to write a musical and all the chords are going to be like three to four or five chords kind of thing." That these are usually, big processes.
Well, for me, it was sort of a good fit because also Susan's out of town right now, but my partner Susan Robinson, we worked together for a number of years with Chasing Shadows Productions. That was our theater company in
Cool.
Hamilton, and so it was a great way to use both our skills because she's like a visual artist and I'm a singer-songwriter, and so uh, some of the same skills we used with making music videos came in to place with making props and backgrounds and backdrops and all that sort of thing. But and organizing a cast is very similar to organizing a band and doing the rehearsals. Is sort of a similar process, but for the writing, for me, I guess I've always sort of written kind of theatrically with my songs. But one thing about a play, I guess, is the way I approach it is much like doing a concept album. You know, so I think in terms of like acts as like sides of a record. So
Sure.
I'm kind of like making the original cast album in my head, sort of as I'm doing the thing, and trying to make it so it works as a story, as a play, but then also just as an album. So you're just listening to the songs in order; it tells you the story, and most of the moving the plot forward happens in the songs, and then so each song, whatever character's voice that's in, that's who's singing the song. That's what I'm thinking about, which I've often used that in my songwriting already, um, where just like I write in different genres all the time, depending on what the emotion of the song is, or whatever I'm picturing in my head. What does that landscape and world sound like? So this is kind of, in a way, it's kind of like doing musical theater allowed me to sort of bring the audience into my head a bit and show them what I'm kind of picturing,
Right.
sort of thing. When I'm like the chords for me, it's like that's the background, that's the landscape where the action happens, and then the melody is the action, and the words are either narration or dialogue. And so,
Interesting.
yeah, it's all been kind of, and
Well
so in
done.
solos are where the action happens, but you don't need any dialogue, like
Gotcha.
the chase, the storm, the dance, whatever,
I
So it's
love it.
so yeah, everything uh, is important to the other, and they all match together, and so within the song that tells a story from an intro to like the lesson. So each song in and of itself is like almost a whole play. So then you got the song and then the side or act and then the full thing, and so it's just basically more details of an expanding world of that sort of idea and feeling you're trying to get across. So I guess the main difference is for a play, you just have to, do like 90 minutes
Yeah,
worth
yeah.
of exploration of that world instead of 3.5 minutes. Yeah.
So let's switch up and talk about the wonderful music business that we are trying to navigate here. And if you had a time machine, Will, would you want to go back to the way it was before streaming and all that? And do you think you'd like to work in that landscape with what you're doing now, or do you think we're better off, kind of better off where we are right now?
Well, it's sort of both.
Okay.
One thing I often say when we have these conversations with people is, I try to look at the bright side for one thing. And for, because you might as well. It's like this is the world we have, so we might make the best of it.
Yeah.
So, for instance, like what I do now with talking about making plays or albums, like that Mine record, I was able to self-produce it at home, and I honed those skills to be able to do it through doing the cast albums of those plays for the last
Gotcha.
7 years. So and so nowadays maybe you don't sell as many records, especially physical ones, as you would, let's say 20, 30 years ago, but you also don't have to spend, tens of thousands of dollars to make a record. you know
Yes.
so it's like so what you end up with, like the lifestyle you wind up with, is almost equivalent, because like you could self-produce it, and it costs, the overhead is very low, although going to a studio and working with professionals is always preferred, because like then you could just focus on your performance, and you don't have to change
Yes.
hats, and like
Yeah,
now I'm a
exactly.
producer, now I do like playing all those roles, but it is kind of fun sometimes to, if you go into a real space. And so I do, I'm sort of like, both have their benefits and both have their detriments, because I like being able to earn the credit and keep the control, kind of thing. Like if I could say, it's like, no, I came up with this, undeniably, and it was, yeah, and even with the design things, it's been great having the modern technology to do some of the design work myself. Again, through doing my own posters for the last, let's say, I don't know, forever. Like I used to do
Hmm.
physical cut and paste, print off photos and then cut and paste them, and now you do it all on different, like Adobe products or whatever kind of design software you use.
Yeah, it's
And
all very affordable now, isn't it?
yeah, and if you're using the same like system, like I use a Mac, and so everything is kind of, once you're used to it, the way the recording programs work is similar to the way the design programs work. So it's all fairly intuitive once you get into that world of, and same thing with video and everything. It's all like, both are, if you go into a studio and you have an engineer there, you feel more like, okay, this is real, this is big, so that's one of the hard parts about nowadays, is when you're doing something very hands-on, self-produced, uh, is allowing yourself to say, no, this is real, this counts, this is the record.
Sure.
You don't have it, it's not more real the more you pay for it, because
Yeah.
you're still paying for it with time instead of money. So
Yeah.
there's like, so before we got less, and actually that was, not to bring it up too early, but one of the dark gifts of the pandemic was the gift of time, to focus on making a record, and not have to look busy and book as many gigs as possible. You know, uh,
Uh-huh.
so now, since then, I've been able to like decide to put some more time, block some time off to work on things, kind of thing. Because
Yeah.
just before that, I don't know if you remember, things were, so if I had a time machine, sure, I'd go back to 2001, but not 2018 probably.
Well, that's interesting. You mentioned the pandemic. They told us that everything was going to come back after the pandemic, and you can speak to it now from two sides, from theater and from music. They said it would come back, but I didn't see much coming back. I mean, we're seeing this now. So, what do you think needs to happen in order to get the gigs and the theaters back to the way they were before the pandemic?
Well, what the first thing that comes to my mind is something that might be a little uncomfortable to say in here, but it's like, things just have changed.
Yes, I
I,
agree.
I think I think we just have to move forward. It's like what happened, 70 years ago, at the end of the, vaudeville came and went. Uh,
Yes.
and then those nightclubs in the, came and went. Like a night out used to mean, there was an orchestra and a team of busboys and like showgirls and comedians, and like one couple's night out employed like 100 people.
Yes.
And so, but then somehow, through like the changes through history, a lot of that went away and changed into something else. So in the 60s, a lot of people have rose-colored glasses about that decade, but for us, the singer-songwriters, like they didn't have the bar scene yet. So it was more, from what I've seen through historical documents. I was not personally there, but from what I gather, it was more like they had these coffee houses. So you'd have these great world-class musicians passing the hat and playing in a coffee shop, as well as they had the festivals came up. So now, and I have been to events where you see thousands of people filling the streets for festivals and that sort of thing. So there is still an audience, and there's obviously tons of artists. So one benefit to nowadays is that it's easier for an artist to, like, you could make your work, you could say, make it exactly how you want it at home for a couple $100 instead of a couple, thousands. But yeah, so anyway, going back to moving forward with live performance, I think part of it is we're going to have to pivot a bit and find new places and ways of performing that. And one joy I found in my life recently too is finally accepting that not everything is for everyone and not everywhere is for everything. Like I don't like playing in bars with TVs, as if I could avoid it.
I got you, and I
Yeah, it's
agree.
like, yeah, you don't need a singer songwriter bearing his soul at a sports bar. Just don't do it there. You know.
I've always wondered that myself, and you've been in those situations, what the TVs are going, and it's like, well, why are you here?
Exactly. Both should exist. It's like,
Yeah,
there's, or even the same venue but different times a day or whatever.
exactly.
Which is another thing. Matinees are becoming a big thing,
That's
and
true. Yes.
yeah, and even night shows are happening earlier, which I don't mind. The funny thing is, I'm sort of like right on time with luckily for me, like how I'm aging. It's
It
like,
is. I'm the same way.
yeah, the shows are getting earlier. It's like, all right, I don't
Yeah.
mind being home by midnight.
What we play from 7 to 9?
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, exactly. Prime time now. It's like,
Yeah, that's
that's
prime time.
so that's one way that they are kind of already adapting it, right? Is just sort of knowing like the demographic and yeah. So when you find the demographic that likes your material, and then you find out where do they go to hear music. So like instead of bars now, it would be, yeah. Well, you sometimes do as well, house concerts, but then
Yes.
also
Yeah.
breweries and wineries.
Yeah.
That's like the new bar.
I
So
was talking to, and he's going to be on the show. His episode is coming up. Duncan Fremlin from Whiskey Jack,
mm,
and Duncan's from the area here in the north, and now making his home in Toronto. And that's when we talked on his episode that's coming up. Is well, actually his episode will probably air before yours. Kind of do them in the order that they came, eh?
right.
And he said that we have to change how we present. We can't just walk up there and say, here we are, and we're just, playing our stuff. We have to give them almost like theater, like something entertaining. We have to entertain, not just sing a song.
Well, it depends on the audience and the venue too.
True.
Yeah,
Well, I
exactly.
mean, let's say we're not playing it for a dinner and we're not playing in a bar. Let's say you know, he's suggesting that we have to just do shows that are specific for the event kind of thing.
Well, exactly. Yeah, and I kind of don't mind that nowadays, because when it fits, when you have the venue, the audience, and the material, and the artist that all match and should be together, and
Hmm.
where like that's the venue where the aesthetic of the place matches the style of the music, and the audience likes to see and hear this type of show you're putting on. Because that's the thing. Like nowadays, unfortunately, this is another uncomfortable thing to say, but the music industry is kind of a pay what you can, you
Yeah.
know, business. So people are electing, they're choosing to pay for it, and they're choosing to see like a real live human. Even back in 2001, that's a date I mentioned because that's sort of when I really started doing my professional thing
Sure.
up in Sudbury, and And at that time, the big threat was like DJs. You know, people
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
all afraid that
Yeah.
every bar, you don't have to hire five guys, you just hire one with a record player.
Yeah.
And but we found a way to like all fit in. And so that's part of it. Because yeah, sometimes you do want just a guy with an acoustic guitar, bearing his soul. Like there's some rooms where that's the thing to do. And sometimes again in those sports bars with the TVs and everything, like a guy with a ball cap strumming the hip, that is his gig. I shouldn't be there. He could take it. Everybody has a place if you find
Well
it.
said. Very well said. So
Yeah.
speaking of music and touring, Northern Ontario often left out of some of the great tours and musical acts that come through. Not that we're like top of the charts or anything like that, but you and I are going to bring stuff to Northern Ontario and talk about some of our history that you and I both have grown up with.
Well,
And
that was so neat.
that's gonna be a blast. And we connected, and it was just awesome.
Well, yeah. Ever since you told me the name of your upcoming album,
Yeah,
in the tracks of the Black Bear,
yeah,
that it was about the Algoma Railway and all that, I thought, well, this is a great fit to the Mine record, and the fact that
hmm
we're both from the north and we're both celebrating, our personal regional histories and just sort of,
yes,
and then also I think there's and the idea that we're going to try to do some of the shows on that tour in museums. What I found is people who like history and trains and mining, and also they also like acoustic guitar music. It's like
yeah, exactly, yeah.
just putting it together. It's like, and then telling those stories and singing those stories, where they happen. That's going to be neat.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad I connected with you because, and this is what things like, well, it was Folk Music Ontario, but now it's Folk Canada. But this is I've always said that Folk Canada is probably the best membership I've ever had because of all the great connections like yourself and everything else that I've made. And that's always advice that I tell folks. You know what? If you're not a punk band or a metal band, maybe you should join.
Well, pretty much because yeah, like what they describe is like the folk umbrella is so huge now. It's like there's almost
Yeah.
anything under the sun. It's almost more like well, just like they say about jazz too. It's not so much a what, but a how.
Yes.
Say about
Yeah.
jazz, and with
Well,
folk,
it's
it won't
definitely
take
about how, that's for sure, when it
yeah,
comes to jazz.
right, yeah, and then with folk, yeah, with some great some it might have been Louis Armstrong. I
Mm.
forget exactly who said it, but the quote is yeah, I know. All music is folk music. I ain't never heard no horse play the trumpet or something like that, or sing a song. Yeah, I never heard of no horse
That's
sing a
well
song.
done. Yeah, no
Yeah,
kidding. And
so
it's speaking of touring too, and that's what we hope to overcome because we were going for grants and stuff like that. But then there are artists who don't get the grants and they still go out there and they still do it anyways. But they're coming back home with less money than they went out with or breaking even. What's going on there? Is that on the musicians or is that just what's happening with the venues? What's gonna change that?
well, yeah, I guess there's a few things with that. I guess it depends on what you want to get out of it, and
Mm,
what you want to put into it. So one thing that's important is like even people in the arts, in every facet of the arts, all kinds of artists and technicians and everything. It's like nowadays people need to like have multiple income streams. So even myself, yeah, doing the theater as well as the music, as well as sometimes other pickup gigs and that sort of thing. It's like you have to, when we're doing the tour, like, and there's a great thing that theater did for me is that it made it more a project by project approach. So you're not
yeah,
thinking about
yeah,
the career, you're thinking about, yeah. And then with a tour, you try to break even or come out on top. But why are you doing it? Like if you're doing it to make money, well, you could just get a better paying job with a guarantee. you know. But yeah, you try to make money where and when you can, but knowing
yes,
that like sometimes you could do a tour and like that month maybe you paid your rent with the music, but like not all the time. Like another expression I came up with recently is sort of paraphrasing that Back to the Future. You put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. I think that's incomplete. You could do anything, but you can't do everything. Anyway,
well said. Yeah,
yeah. So
it's good. Keeps life in perspective, and you don't get as disappointed that way any.
oh yeah, like, and try to find what's good about what you're doing.
Yeah,
So if you
exactly.
do a
Yeah,
tour and it's like It's like, oh wow, it's like if you want to play the big rooms, sometimes you have to rent them, and sometimes it'll cost something. But then if you could also, which sort of that's what I do with this current grant application I'm waiting for, and then working on the updated version if it doesn't work out, is having a contingency plan too. So it's like still do it either way, but like here's the ideal dream way, and here's the practical pragmatic way, and
Yeah.
then sometimes you could find like a something that's a bit of both, where it's like ambitious yet doable.
Yeah.
That's
Excellent.
what you got to do. It's like you got to have the high hopes, but
Yeah.
also the reasonable expectations at the same time, and then you're doing it if you're doing it to connect with people and to collect memories, then you're going to enjoy it. But if you're doing it to uh, for the fame or the money, it's like that's going to be hard.
Mm.
But yeah,
Fame never, but money I think should always be in a consideration. It just doesn't have to be a ton of it. You just got to try to be in the black and not the red.
oh exactly. Those are my favorite gigs. When nobody's put out. Like
Yeah.
like when you have sometimes you do play a bar, like the Richmond Tavern I'll give a shout out in London.
Sure.
They do sort of an old fashioned business where it's like the beer is very affordable, so people come in and it's like volume. It's like a volume business. So
Yeah, they go for volume as opposed to,
yeah, exactly.
you
It's not
know,
each customer pays a ton. It's like
yeah,
they spend the same like $60, but it's like on
yeah,
whatever 5 beers instead of
yeah,
two. Anyway, that kind of thing. And so they get the room full, but nobody's paying a big cover either. It's like so you get room full of people paying $5. And in
yeah.
the theater, I was doing a festival not too long ago, and it was the Fringe Festival in North Bay, on the
Oh
edge,
yeah.
which was a great time and a great place, and thanks to them, another shout out there. But uh, they hadn't, they weren't doing this thing that they did in the Hamilton Fringe, which is artists all just let each other in for free. Like there was a
Oh,
password
right.
system. It's almost like a guest list where if you're, if
Mm-hmm.
you're a fellow artist in the same festival, you automatically get in for free. Of course, because
Yeah.
because it's better. Like the same 10 people that are paying will still be there, but now you have every seat filled, and then then you're playing to a full room, and you're making the same couple $100 as you
Yeah.
would you know with an
Yeah.
empty room.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you got to find those ways of what are the rewards you're looking for, and how do you get them, and that sort of thing. But
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well
yeah,
said,
yeah,
sir. All
thank
right,
you.
Will, tell everyone where they can find your music and more about you and your album Mine and all the rest of that stuff.
Okay, well, willgillespie.ca is the main place, the catch-all for all my stuff, and then you'll be able to see, like, listen to the records and stream it. And again, pay what you can. You could decide to buy, to download, or just stream it online from.
Well, we would like it if you downloaded and bought it.
Yeah, the best thing. Well, actually, with the Mine record, because of the packaging, there's actually, yeah, you get like the full lyrics and the historical photos and everything if you get
Oh,
the physical
great. See,
product.
there you
It
go,
also
man.
comes with a download too. So
See?
so the physical product is the best because like then you have the full experience, and the CD has a booklet. I'm from the age of the CDs, was sort of like
Yeah,
that
I
was,
hear you.
yeah, that's what records were to me. So and I love making the booklets because then that's part of the experience. Like you look at the photos, you read the lyrics, follow
Yeah,
along, get lost in
yeah.
that world. Anyway, so you can buy those through my website or through Bandcamp.
Gotcha. Yeah, Bandcamp. That's the way to go.
Yeah, because
Outstanding. Well, thank you so much. Well, we'll be in touch, of course. And as a matter of fact, don't go away at the end of this call. When I stop recording, I'm going to touch base with you on a couple of our other thing points there and then go from there. Won't take much of time. But thanks again for coming on the program.
well, thanks for having me and getting the Cowboys less lonesome talking like this.
You got it. Thanks, brother. Rock and roll may live forever, but we only retire once. Kevin Lamour of Our Financial Plans and Quadris Investment Services offers a large range of financial solutions from some of the biggest leaders in the investment and insurance landscape of Canada. See how a solid financial plan built with friendly and professional advice can help. Find out more at ourfinancialplans.ca or give them a call at 705-949-1316.